Hey guys, it's Nabisa
And Marshall.
talking to you from Amity Radio 6.1 FM. We're gonna tone things down for a bit today.
We figured it's time that we start talking about what's important.
In today's episode of Blurred Lines, we're gonna talk about sexual harassment. She was like a flower that danced with the wind. Fragile, beautiful, innocent. She had an entire life to live for. She was grace, she was courage, she was unique. Her mama always said that rapists and sexual offenders were men in black hoodies hidden in twisting shadows and dark alleyways. Sexual offenders, they were always leaving old men in bags, never blonde-haired or blue-eyed and always smiling. Not once did you think to question the intentions of his warm and familiar fingertips. When you find yourself locked in his claws and he tells you, oh, that you must want it, don't be a tease, look at what you're wearing. A sliver of skin mistaken for an invitation. How many times have you felt uncomfortable by inappropriate jokes, sexually harassed, groped in the streets, made to feel like a sex object, belittled, shamed, removed of all dignity? Unfortunately for many, this is an everyday reality. Saying to me, you're a grown person. How do you fail to understand that my body is not a public property? I'm not here for your pleasure. You do not get to do with me as you please. Even if I'm walking around stark naked out of my mind, you still do not get to touch me. Throughout time, objectification of our bodies have been normalized, and it's time people realize that we are human beings with thoughts and emotions. We will not put up with this anymore. I will fight to take back what's rightfully mine. Go out there and be bold. Make noise, take up space. We will no longer hide. We will take control of our bodies and we will own it with pride. We will not be ashamed or belittled anymore. Not now, not today, not tomorrow, or any other time. This sort of behavior happens all too often, and we're all aware of it happening, yet choose to ignore it blindly. What does this kind of behavior have to say about our society? You think, oh, it's alright, it's an everyday thing anyway. And what kind of effect does this kind of attitude have on our future generations? I know it's difficult, but it's so important for us to speak out and admit that there is something really wrong here and that sexual assault exists. Thank you. Whether you're young or old, open-minded or closed-minded, male or female, you've all wondered at some point when you've heard about sexual harassment incidents, and that is, what went on in the harasser's mind when he committed such a grotesque thing? Well, to tame your curiosity, we questioned a psychologist to enlighten you further about the topic. Ms. Sanakshi, thank you for being with us over here today.
Thank you so much, Nabisa. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Firstly, I want to ask, we know sexual harassment happens all around us, but it's especially prevalent in universities and people usually get away with it. Why is that so?
Yes, a couple of incidents must have taken which imply the fact that when you're not under supervision, then obviously, it's almost like saying why when somebody is anonymous, you're able to write and express yourself more. So the factor that there are two factors which are very important in it. One of the factors is anonymity and the other factor is a group effect. Sometimes when you do underage drinking in a group, what happens is, there is no delegation. There's no one person who will be caught. So it's an easy escape for students to explore their possibilities. There is no group punishment per se for something like that. And also, a fact that this is their transition period. So they are exploring their ideologies of freedom.
We all relate and know the victim's story, but what really goes on in the harasser's mind?
Nothing comes up suddenly. It's a gradual process. That yes, there are so many things that are born out of how your childhood practices are, which I think is the most important aspect. If you have been abused in childhood, you feel that you have the right to abuse someone else also. Sometimes that is one of the factors. Then if you have been abused, you have been suppressed in your childhood, you have been, not given proper training, which is how to take care of yourself or your conduct vis-a-vis, outsiders or respecting women. awareness is most important. Awareness of your own body is most important. When you're a university student, there are two things you must remember. This is the capacity that we have. This is the amount of, extension that we do want to do for ourselves outside to other people. I think you can be strong enough to definitely know that whether, something is going beyond. And if something is going beyond, it's your choice to stop it now.
Thank you, Miss.
We've all been there. We've either been sexually assaulted or consciously or subconsciously assaulted someone else. In a society where it's deemed that women are the only victims of this heinous act, I beg to differ. You see, it's not just only women, but children and men too who face the consequence. And I share my experience with you right now. You see, when I was in grade 10th, I took a cab ride back to my tuition center. But this cab ride was not like the others. This cab driver started massaging my leg and then slowly going up to my inner thigh, and he was moving towards my crotch. I immediately figured this out and I slapped his hand, and then I gave him the money and told him to pull over. He pulled over and I just got out of the cab. I didn't look back, I walked all the way to tuitions. And ever since that day I was so disgusted and traumatized. So disgusted that I didn't take a cab for 2 weeks, fearing the worst. And through it, I could understand how people and victims felt after a sexual harassment. It is truly something that nobody deserves to experience.
That was a really traumatic story, Marshall. This is why it's highly important that we stand up for ourselves the way Marshall did. Because if you don't have a voice, if you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't come up with your stories, nobody else is going to have that voice for you. And the more we share, the more we learn from one another, more people are going to come out, more people are going to step out and share their stories. And that's the way we could put a full stop to this. Because if we don't stand up for ourselves, nobody else will.